Okay, so this was the original flexible layout. Okay, now this doesn't have media queries. Okay, this is just scaling. You'll notice things don't change the layout. It's just, remember when we did a flexible layout and we did percentages? This was the original kind of idea. Things will change, the pictures will scale, text will wrap. Okay, we call it flexible web page. Then part of this is done by what we call a fluid grid. In the fluid grid, you'll notice this is one that has the fluid option. What is the grid is, and let's look at the graphic. There's a graphic that's involved here. Sorry, I'm copying and pasting because Word doesn't open up HTML very well yet. Someday they'll fix that. I think it works better if you have a Internet Explorer or whatever on a Windows. Probably if you're on Windows and you have Internet Explorer on there and you're using Word and you have links in Word, it probably works pretty well. I don't know. Does it? Does anybody know?
Mine is open. Mine is open.
Yours is open. But what I'm trying to say is sometimes I give you Word documents that have links like this, and sometimes when you click on them, it takes forever to open or they just don't work. I'm thinking that probably on a Windows computer with Internet Explorer, this would probably work a lot better than me trying to click and wait. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's look at the fluid grid. So in Dreamweaver, you'll see these grids, and you have to learn how to deal with them. Okay, in the fluid grid layout, in the program, it's going to give you boxes. Okay, what are these boxes? Well, these boxes relate to the actual document itself. So you'll notice you have one option here, okay, for some of the content in this box. The main content's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across here, and then the other one is over here. Okay, so you have these columns, and in Dreamweaver, you're going to be making the div. You'll see these boxes in Dreamweaver, and you'll be making a div across the box. In fact, the nice thing about Dreamweaver, it'll snap to the edge. It'll snap to the edge. Okay? You can determine the space between them. Remember, it's called a gutter. You can determine if you can make these bigger or smaller. Bigger or smaller. Notice. Okay, now this is a still image, so it's not. This is just a picture, so it's not really going to show. It's just scaling. It's not giving you a realistic. This is the actual document here. And you'll notice as it gets smaller, the things will start wrapping. Notice how this stays the same though, and this stays the same. Not same size, but in the same location is what I meant by that. So if you saw what I drew on the board, what we'll be doing is as the size changes, we can then move these boxes around. In fact, we're going to do what we drew on the board. We'll have 3 columns, tablet, 2 boxes, cell phone, all down. That's what we're going to do today, just to learn the basics of the fluid grid. Okay? Let's look at the Word document again.
Do you define the minimum size so that you can only make it so small? Like you can't make this thing smaller than the word television, revolution.
Yeah, you can limit the amount of when it changes to the small as well as big, right? I think I told you before that you can have a max width because you don't want it to get bigger than, like somebody has a giant monitor. You don't want it spreading all the way out to the edge. So you can have max width and a min width, yes.
So what's the good size for design of next piece?
It's up to you. I have some examples in here, but the max I would say no more than 1024. A standard laptop monitor might be 1280 across, right? So people's standard 15-inch laptop is a 1280 pixels across. I probably wouldn't make my web page get any bigger than that, right? So yeah, there's some max sizes, I would say. And the standard cell phone, the old 4S, I think 4S, right?
I got mine, all one.
Yeah. Even the old ones were like 320, right? I think it's 320 or 480. Okay? So that's like the tiniest I would make. 320 is pretty small.
So you would set your max to be the size of a 15-inch laptop when you have these big desktops?
Yeah. Because then your things are going to start falling apart inside. It's not necessarily that, hey, I want to optimize for somebody's giant screen, which would be great, that I could get it to go all the way across. The problem is the pieces that you put inside are going to start falling apart because you're taking something that's for something tiny, and then you're starting to, the more you spread it out, the text is going to get, and people can't read really long lines, right? You would add that, maybe make more columns then, yeah, you're right. You could go, instead of 3 columns, 4 columns across. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is,
Depends on what you're working on. Like if you have pictures, then maybe you would want to be able to get bigger.
maybe you have 5 across, yeah. It depends on the actual, yeah, but most people, we try to keep a consistent layout that doesn't get too big. Okay. So, yeah, there is some limitations. We call it a grid-based design. This is in the fluid grid option inside of Dreamweaver. It's based on the columns. The space between the columns is called the gutter. And the width of the columns is set in percentages. Okay. Let's do an example. Remember our base 16? So here we go. Is based upon the M spacing. We learned about this last class, at the base upon 16 pixels for the font base, right? 1M was 16 pixels for the font, right? Do you remember that? Okay, so we can use that. Okay, the target divided by the context equals results. Okay, so if you remember from last week how we were calculating this, if you wanted a 24 pixel font, then 24 divided by 16 equals 1.5 M for your font. Do you remember that? Okay, good. But this is different for the divs and the boxes because the boxes are measured in percentages. This is where I was a little bit, I didn't add the 100 in last week. I was kind of making up the percentages. Let's think about it for a moment. Okay. If we have the grid layout and we wanted 4 across, okay, or 3 across in this case, we want to figure out how big to make the boxes. Okay, how big do you want the boxes? But you have to calculate in the gutter in the maximum size, right? So if I had a header, the header's pretty easy if you wanted to go maximum across, which would be like 100%, right? Whatever the max width is, let's say it's 988. Okay, so let's start. I want to make a website that's 988 pixels across. Okay, if I'm going to make a header that's 100%, okay, I make a div that's 100%. It's 100% of the 988. But if I'm going to make boxes for my columns or for columns of information, I need to calculate how big to make these. Okay, and that's what I'm talking about now. How do I determine how big to make the boxes? We use the calculation like it is here. But this is different for the divs and the boxes. With divs and boxes, we would like to use the percent to get the size of the divs. We can do this by multiplying by 100. Target divided by context equals result time 100. Here's my 988 example that I just talked about. For example, if you want a website to be 988 pixels across and you want the header to be 988 the entire width, then you would use 988 divided by 988 equals 1 times 100 equals 100%. Right? But if you want a section of the web page to be 700 pixels across, you would use the 700 divided by the 9088, which gives you this big long number, which, of course, calculator would better than my brain, times 100 will give you the size of the box. Notice how it's not an even number. It's 70.8502%. When working with the fluid grid, you will need to calculate the column widths. This can be done in percentages also. Okay, let's get started. The program will do all this for you. The reason why I'm putting it on this piece of paper is so you understand why it's doing it. That's all I'm saying. You don't need to really calculate this. You make the grid, you draw the boxes the size you want them. It does all the calculation for you. Okay, but you should at least have the theory of how it's making the box for you. That's all I'm trying to say.
You don't need to have the theory of you want it 700 pixels across. I still don't think in pixels. I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, if you said I want my box to be about 80% of the maximum screen, I would understand that.
Mm-hmm.
At 700 pixels, that's not enough. I don't get pixels still.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to get it to be able to do these things?
No, you don't. But you know what? In the past, the reason why they have all these pixels in here is in the past we've always designed things for the screen in pixels. Ever since I've been designing web pages, ever since I've been designing videos in video pixel. I know a high definition video camera is 1920 by 1080. That's the dimensions. Pixels. Okay? When I am designing for the computer screen, I know the monitor is 1280 by 768. That's the size of my laptop. So the reason why we're using these pixels is because for years we've been using pixels, not percentages, pixels. So now we're trying to go from,
Now we're evolved and we can use
well, ever since this fluid grid design and responsive design, designers like me have had to calculate this change. This is a major change in my brain. For you, you're new to this, so hey, percentages make more sense than pixels to you. I know a piece of paper is 8.5 by 11 inches. Hey, pixels come from years I've been using pixels. In fact, I know an icon, this mouse that you're looking at, this little arrow right there, that's 16 by 16 pixels. That's been built into the computer operating system for over 20 years. 35 years. Mac original OS. This is 16 pixels, 16 by 16. I don't measure that little mouse by. And so that's where the pixels come from. Let's just start in Dreamweaver and then we'll start building them and then you'll. So I don't have a folder for you to download stuff right now. We're just going to start from scratch. Once you start the program, remember, we always do the same thing every class. We go under Site, New Site, Site, New Site. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call mine Fluid Grid Sample 1, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go to where it says Local Site Folder. Local Site Folder. There's a little folder right here. See it right here? I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to my desktop or wherever you want. I'm going to make a new folder. See where it says New Folder right here? I'm going to make a new folder. And let's call it Fluid Grid Sample. Whatever you want to call it. But I'm calling mine what it is, kind of as my first Fluid Grid sample. Again, you need to make a folder. Right there's the new folder option. Make a new folder. Hit choose. Hit save. And we'll get started. You don't need this window open. So find a folder on your computer to make a file. And you need to do this every time. I had a class go for 8 weeks long, and it was still the last week of class, and the students were still, you know, they're showing, oh, here's my website. I go over, and they haven't defined site to the folder. I'm just like, for 8 weeks, I've been telling you, every class we start the same way. You tell the program where you're building your website on your computer. Everybody got that? Ready to start? Here we go. We're going to go under File, New, File, New. Again, we're not using blank page this time. We're going to be using fluid grid layout. So right now, within the first week or so, we're going to be talking about mostly kind of making it for one dimension, like this. But later on, we're going to have some media queries that change when the person rotates the iPad, right, or the phone. So there's going to be more than just a simple media query. There's going to be media queries that actually have rotating, because think of the iPad, right? It looks like this right now, but what if you turn it clockwise? How do you want the layout to look then? So there's a lot more than just building it. I know it looks like it's pretty simple right here, but it's not. In this case, this is fully customizable. And let's look at what it means here. This is saying on a desktop computer, use 90% of the screen. That's where this 90% comes. On a tablet, use 93% of the screen. And on a mobile device, use 91% of the screen. This is just a default inside of Dreamweaver. You can adjust it. Why do they have these? Well, they're just common sizes, right? If you think about it, my page, my horrible page, this is 80% from here to here. So that gives you, you know, the example is 90%. It would be probably to here to here. Right? So just think about that. That's what it's telling you. This is 80%. Of course, mine doesn't wrap, see? Okay. I didn't make it for that. That's why. So we got 90%. Now, these numbers is the number of columns. Okay, the number of columns. And you can adjust them too. It's best to be even numbers, right? You want them to be kind of, you know, 4, double 4 is 8. 8 is not 16, but 12 is fine. The more columns you have, the more kind of variations of the layout you can have, right? Think about it. The way I drew the boxes on the board, right? You can have one box one size and another size. So the more columns you have, the more variations you can have. If your website is pretty simple, you don't need to have too many columns. Notice how the desktop is 1,232 pixels. That doesn't necessarily mean see, the mobile is 480. I don't think I can adjust that. I think it's just giving you a general size there. The percentage column down here is the percentage of the gutter. 25% is kind of big, at least the examples that I've fallen. I'm going to change it to 15. Do you need such large space between the columns? Probably not. That's what I'm trying to say. So think about boxes on the screen. If you change this, they're going to be closer together. That's what this is telling you. You want the boxes to be further apart? Make a higher number. Notice how it's doc type HTML5. Make sure it stays HTML5. This is made, fluid grids are made for HTML5 layout. Not necessarily have to use the header, footer, section, A side, and all those. But it's more has to do with the CSS. and the HTML5 working together. The first option it's going to ask you to change is going to say, it's going to want you to save the CSS. Remember I talked about making an external CSS file? In the past, we've always created the CSS inside of the header. It's going to automatically make it an external file. So when you hit create, let's hit create. We'll leave everything else default. It's going to ask you, notice how the extension is .css. Do you see that? I'm going to call it fluidgrid.css. So the first option is asking you to save the CSS file. Next, you want to save your HTML file. So first one, it asks you for fluid grid. Next, it's going to want you to save the HTML file. So let's save the HTML file. To save the HTML file, we're going to go under File, Save As, File, Save As, and I'm going to call it Profile. Why do I call it Profile instead of index.html? Well, in this case, we're making kind of like a template. And I can use this template then to make several other pages, like the index page, or a photography page, or a blog page, or something else. So it's just like you're making a template. But the reason why we don't use the word template is because template is a specific thing inside of Dreamweaver, and I don't want to use the word template to kind of confuse you. If you're confused enough already, I'm just calling it profile. This is just a working file that you can use to make all the other files from. Does that make sense? Just like we did, remember when we first started making pages and we made one page, and I know we called it index first, I know we did. This is just a different way of doing it. I'm just calling it profile, and I can make all the other pages. Once I set this layout the way I want it, I can make all the other pages from it. Okay, just like we did before. So again, if I'm going to give it a name, and when I hit save, it's going to ask me to save other things. It says right now, it says Fluid Grid Design requires the following dependent files. The first one's called the boilerplate.css, and the other one's called respond.min.js. Okay, so what are these? Well, the first one is the boilerplate CSS. Okay, what is the boilerplate? Well, in this case, whenever you're doing a fluid grid design, some people still might have an old browser that can't take advantage of it. So there's been some JavaScript and CSS that's been written that will be able to change the layout for websites that can't take advantage of the fluid grid. Okay, and there's some code in here, there's some reading in here that kind of explains a little bit. Okay, if you know, there's ways that you can customize this, is what they're talking about. You might not need all these. Okay, and they're talking about, you know, these are CSS hacks, so that if somebody has an older browser, it will take advantage of it. So let's look at some of the code that it's written for us automatically.
Did we say okay to that?
Yeah, save all those files. Let's just use default for now. But again, if you look here, you'll notice IE7, IE7, IE8, IE8. They can't take advantage of all those old, new ways of doing things, is the problem. That's why we have JavaScripts and extra CSS to try and take advantage of that. And that's just the way it is. You know, you want to make a website that does that, you have to think about people that actually have an old browser. Unless you don't care about them, and then you can say, I don't care about them, and then just leave it out. You could do that if you want.
Jeff, can you just, I just need the awful for other people, the chevron exclamation point dash dash, what does that mean?
This one right here?
Yeah, the below. So, the next line, the dash dash.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah,
Oh, this is commented out. If you
so
want
what is
to,
the comment then?
okay, yeah, comment is where you can put,
Comments.
yeah, where you can put notes.
I
And
understand what a comment is.
Oh, okay.
There's 10 different ways of commenting in HTML, it seems like. So which one is the comment? The open chevron dash dash or the exclamation point? What makes it a comment for this one?
In this case, if I make a new line, let's just do one. I type in, this is my first page. Over here in the code view, you have a variety of different options. Okay. You have collapse tag view, collapse selection, expand all, select parent tag, balance braces, line number, highlight invalid word wrap, syntax errors, apply comments. Okay, so if I want to comment this line right here, I can click on here. You can apply the HTML comment. I believe this is the CSS comment. So if I do this one, it'll do the plain HTML. So if that's what you're asking me,
Yes.
that's how you can do
It
it.
just seems like there were different ways of commenting lines.
I think that CSS one is the second one, and
You
then
can do all of them in any of the code?
Yes.
You can only do the CSS and the CSS.
if you go in the CSS option right here is the CSS. See how I can click up here at the top up here? Okay, so let's click again. So this is the source code for the HTML. This is a CSS that's been linked to this page. This is the fluidgrid one that we've already made. It already has some CSS built right in for us because it's writing CSS for us automatically. And then this one is JavaScript. Oh, here's the JavaScript one, the / with the star and an exclamation point. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And then the CSS one, is there a comment? Here it is. It's the / star and then that. So yeah, the different comments that you see here in this pull down menu was CSS. I guess this one's JavaScript maybe, I don't know. And this one's the HTML. So
Joe, my version is different than yours.
yes, I said that earlier today.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, you have those.
What is different?
See, you have the class, HTML class equal to. I don't have that.
It's here. Is that what you're asking me about?
Oh.
It's there.
Oh,
It might be in a different spot. That's all. One of the things you'll notice is that it puts the viewport in for you. Remember we talked about that one in the handout? See the viewport one right here? That was for, it'll scale it to the full size of the screen. I don't know how to explain it any more than that right now. Of course, you have your title. Then you have a link to your CSS files that it automatically made for you. Then it talks a little bit about the different tags and what these mean. The HTML5, this option is what has been built right here. It's commented out right now, but we might need to put that in for HTML or IE9. But let's continue for right now, so we can. So it makes this option for you. Now, in the newer version of Dreamweaver, they really don't have a design view, right? In your version, there's not a design option. No. Okay. But in this version, there's a design option. First thing, let's look at some options down here. The options I want you to look at is down here. You'll notice that you got your mobile size, your tablet size, and your desktop size right here. So if you want to see your layout in the different options down here, if you click, you'll see mobile size, tablet size, desktop size.
How do we get it there?
This way.
I don't have design.
You need to use split view in your version. You need to use split view. So in a newer version, you need to use split view, and that'll give you a little bit of this and this at the same time. So if you have the newer version, you're going to have to use split view. You don't have a design view only. In addition, what you can do is you can use these options to build your page down here. See it right here? You want to put boxes in for desktop, you click there, build your boxes. You want to build your boxes for your tablet, click there, build your boxes for your tablet. You want to build your boxes for mobile, click there, it'll build the mobile. Okay, so you can jump between them. Okay, did everybody see how to do that? You can also click on the pull-up menu and see there's actually different sizes for maximum.
So I don't have that small
You also
box.
have lands. Yes?
I don't have that small box.
I don't have the small box.
See, you have a small box, I don't have it.
Yeah, it's just a view option. It's probably under the view command. Visual aids. It's not that important right now. It
So you
isn't?
want it?
I don't know how to bring that up.
It's here, my before.
I don't know. Your version is different than the one I have.
This is the version, it's brand new.
No, I
just-
understand that, but we don't have the brand new one on the computer. It should be blue on yours. It would be blue on yours.
Blue?
Blue, yes. What I just did. You see, now I'm going to start changing things. I don't know what I just did. I don't know what I just did. I don't know. You're asking me to change it, so I'm trying to change it. I don't know. I don't know. There, so yours is blue.
How you get it?
I don't know. I clicked on it. Okay, let's continue here. Again, let's look down here at the bottom. I'm trying to show you some stuff down here. Okay, here's the different phones, tablet, different screen sizes here. You also have the orientation. Remember I talked about that. You can have it where it rotates, right? Because your phone's going to, so landscape is this way, portrait is that way. Okay? So there's some options down there. I wanted to point them out. We'll get to them. Okay, but we'll be using them. The other feature that you might want to look at is in the live view. And it's different on mine. Hold on. In the live view on mine, I was able to bring up the hold on. Let me go under view. Just give me a second here. Which was kind of cool to see the actual web page inside. Live code, live view. No. Yeah, in my view, in my version, it has the box, the box up here. When you go to live view, you can type in an HTML command and check it out. Check out a page, and it's not working out here. Let me see if I can bring that up. Hold on. Let me pause this. You can see it right here. See pre-made box. Okay. Again, you can work from mobile out or desktop in if you wanted to. Again, you can work from mobile out or desktop in. Most people, again, like we've been talking, you can work from mobile out. Okay. My first example that I did, I actually went from big to small. I don't know why. So let's start with the big one. I'm going to go over here to the desktop. So I'm going to start with desktop. And I'm going to insert a header because I want a header. So I'm going to get rid of this one eventually. But first I'm going to put a header in, and then I'm going to remove this one, this pre-made one that's already been made for us. So to put the header in, I'm going to go under Insert, Structure, Header. And I'm going to use an ID, and I'm going to call it header, H-E-A-D-E-R. Oh. So this will be my header. Notice it says insert as a fluid element, which means it will scale. And I hit OK. Once I put the header in, I really don't need this grid container right here anymore. Yeah?
I'm getting insert structure, but I'm not seeing the header available for selection. I'm just seeing heading.
Make sure you're in the right spot.
That's why I'm actually need to click on that.
Insert. Turn the live view off for me if you could.
Maybe that's what's
If it's not working for you, it's because you have live view turned on.
That was it.
Header.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get the header in?
Okay, got it.
Just header. Everybody got that?
No, this is crashed.
Hers is what?
It's kind of, the whole Dreamweaver is frozen up.
So, save, if you could for me. Well, save. Okay. And go under Insert. Header. Go to ID. Type in the word header.
Did you do that escape?
Yes. I don't know why. Escape sometimes fixes things when they're stuck. Okay, so I'm going to delete this box, this top one. You don't need it now. You can hit the trash can in the lower corner, and it'll go away. There should be like a little trash can. It looks like a little trash can in the corner. Not the header one, the one that says the grid layout.
Jim, you get that one for me, and then I don't know how I did, and then I couldn't get back anymore.
The what? I'm sorry.
That,
Case. I'm going to make 3 boxes across. 3 boxes across. So I'm going to click underneath. Click down below. In the newer version, you can say insert tag after. So if you had this selected, if I had this selected right here, I could say insert div after. But I don't have that version. So I'm going to click down below. How about that? So let's insert a div, and I'm going to use an ID. I'm going to call it main. For main article. Don't put a space ever in the ID name. Notice how it puts it underneath it. Now if I wanted to make a 3-column layout, I would put my cursor along the right side over here, and I can make it smaller. Notice how I can drag the box to the edge of the 4 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you see that? So I have 1 column. Well, no, one box, 4 columns long. Yeah. See? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make another one. I'm going to click next to it, and I'm going to make a new box. I'm going to say insert div. I'm going to do ID. I'm going to call it main 2. Notice how it shows up underneath it. Shows up underneath it. Yes?
There's like class and ID. What is the class name? I'm sorry.
That you need to give the box a name to be able to apply some CSS to it. So by giving it a name, you can apply the CSS. Now there's 2 ways of giving it a name. One is called a class and one is an ID. You give an ID to a box that is unique, and you give a class to an ID, or to an object that you want to use again and again and again. Let's say you want to use the same subtitle in each one of the boxes. I would give the subtitle a class because I'm using it multiple times. But since I'm using a box once, I might give it an ID. Yes? Yes?
Mine's not like snapping down, like I move the scroll bar over to resize the box.
So for this one, I'm going to shrink it down to... Now to move it up to next to the box, so I shrunk the second one down. And to move it up to the next level, you'll notice there's like a little arrow. It says move up a row. Do you see that? If I click on that, it'll move it up to the next row.
Is that the same as, is it the same CCS as float?
Yeah. Be like float left, I believe. So we learned the code already. Now we're trying to learn the program, which is a little bit different on everybody's computer, which is fun.
Can you say again?
Pardon?
Can you say again how to move left?
I don't know what you mean. I'm
Say it
sorry.
again, she said it. Repeat. Repeat what you just said.
Oh, to move up, you mean? So, oh shit, I lost my box. I inserted a box. I called it main 2. Shit. A second box, I called it main 2. Then I shrunk it down so it's the same size as the other box. Then I wanted it to be up next to this box so it's in a row that goes across. So you'll notice there's one that says move up a row. It's like a little arrow right here. If I click on that, it'll move it up to the next level. I'm going to do the same thing for a third box. I'm going to click next to it out here. Insert div ID. I'm going to call it main 3. Hit OK. Shrink that down to 4 columns. And move that up a row by hitting the arrow. So that's how you get 3 boxes all next to each other.
I don't have that one, so I couldn't do it.
I don't know what to tell you. Why don't you use the computer in the classroom? I know you want to use your laptop, but if, at least you'll learn the concepts, and then you can then go and try apply it to your program. A lot of people have it at home, you know, the newer version. I have a newer version on my laptop too, but I'm struggling to make it work on this version too, and the school is not going to upgrade this, I can tell you that right now.
Is that CS6? I have CS6 in my computer.
No. I have CC 2014. You probably have CC 2015. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah, I
version.
just purchased the
Yeah,
first
so
one.
I don't know. They keep changing it. I can't control what they do. So next we're going to make my footer. I'm going to click down below. I'm going to say insert structure. You can use footer now, the one that says footer. I'm going to go insert structure footer. And I guess it's ID footer. And that goes all the way across. So this is basically a 3-column layout with a header, 3 columns, and a footer. Now, here comes the, if you thought that was complicated enough, let's look at the CSS Designer window now. In the CSS Designer window, you'll see a variety of things, a whole bunch of things now. Notice you have fluidgrid CSS highlighted here. It says only screen min max or min width 769 pixels. Notice how I have 3 different footers down here now. 3 different grid containers. Okay, a variety of things are happening in here. Okay, so it's going to get even more complicated now. Let's just reorganize the boxes according to the size next. How about we do that? So in this case, if you go down below where it says tablet, see where it says tablet down there? Let's go there. Boom. In the tablet, notice it's all top to bottom, right? We've only formatted it for a computer. Notice how they're all stacked on top of each other. Header, main, main 2, main 3. So what you can do now is you can organize your layout the way that you want it now for the tablet. I can take, if I wanted, remember the 2 columns I was talking about? The 2 columns? I could take my main, if that's a word, main. I could make that 3 columns across, or 4 columns across. I can take the main 2, make that 4 columns across. Then I can take and put that up next to it. Remember the move up, and move it up. So now I have a header, 2 columns, main 3 is all the way across, then a footer. I mean, you can actually put, if you want, you can adjust main 3 and make that half a column, and then even add another one in there if you wanted, and have it hidden in the other one. So again, the problem you're going to run into is if you start adding divs in between, which is fine, you can actually do that. You need to have them hidden in other areas if you don't want them in the other areas, or you need to figure out what you want to do with them in the other areas. I'm just pointing out how you can now make the tablet one, which would be the same thing that you would do for the, again, you did the same thing. I shrunk them down. Okay. Shrunk them down. Now for the cell phone, which is this one down here, it's the same thing. I can click on it. Now they're all stacked on top of each other pretty much the way that you might want them to be on a cell phone, right? You might want your content all to be stacked down. If you preview it, save all. If you save all and preview in the browser, this is again what it would look like on the computer screen. shrink it down. This is the way it would be on a tablet. Remember, I have main, main 2, main 3, footer, right? And then this is the way it would look like on a cell phone, all together in one big long stack. So I know it's a little complicated looking, getting these boxes where they need to be, but once you have them set, all you need to do now is color them and add your content. Color them and add your content. How do I color them and add my content? Well, the same kind of way that you would do that we were doing before. You need to use you can use your CSS designer window. So let's try it. Try it. You can highlight the text inside here. You might want to format your text inside there. If you remember before, my header, I usually have my header as formatted for H1. I'm going to go down to where I highlight the text. I'm in the cell phone one now. I'm in the cell phone one. See, I'm in the cell phone one. I highlight my header. I go to where it says format down here, and I'm going to highlight my text as H1. Notice H1 is a pretty big text, so I'm going to call this my title. Oops, not letting me type. My title. If you want to format your text, again, I'm still in the cell phone option down here. Cell phone option. I have my text selected there. Do you remember how we added a new? Remember using the plus button? Remember using the plus? See right here? Plus? Add selector, right? Remember doing that before? I click on my plus. Notice it says grid container, clear fixed, header 1, H1. Notice how it jumps to the desktop one, and I don't have a reason why it does that. I guess it's thinking that you want to do it globally. Notice how it says global right here. What is that saying to me? Well, it's saying to you that you're adjusting the header for all 3 different options. That's why it says global here. See how it says global? In fact, a lot of the tutorials I went through made a suggestion that you would make a new CSS file just before you do this so that you keep that all separate from the fluid grid. So let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say here. You have this thing called fluid grid right here. See it right here, the fluid grid CSS? That has a bunch of CSS that's determining where the boxes are located in all 3 different options: cell phone, iPad, and what did I just say? Cell phone, iPad, and computer. A lot of the tutorials I went through suggested that you make a new CSS file, another one, that is just for the formatting so that it can be separate than the layout part. If that makes any sense. I don't know. So, I didn't do that. That was my mistake. I probably should have done that first. And I don't know if I can undo this. Maybe I can. Let me delete this down here and see if it'll let me. I think it did. So, again, the suggestion is to make another CSS file that is just used for the formatting of like the text, the color of the boxes, and things like that. So how could you do that? Again, you click up here at the top and say, let's see, create new CSS file. I'm trying to do this the way that I think it should be done properly from the beginning. See where it says, so up here at the top, see up here at the top in the CSS designer where it says source, create new CSS file, and then this will be, we give it a name, and this is going to be formatting. I don't know. I can't think of what I want to call it. Remember we used to call it My Style? Maybe we call it that. That may be better. Remember that? My Style? Did you see that? I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm going to try my best here. Again, the reason why is the boilerplate is the one that's built and saved. That's the one that's used to format your page if it's on an older browser.
If it's on
An older browser, right? Remember, IE, the old IE might not take advantage of the fluid grid, right? And then the fluid grid is the way that you built it, the boxes and so on. And then the My Style will be styles that you apply inside the boxes, like font and things like that. I don't know if this is the best way to go about it, but that's sort of the way that I was reading and trying. So, for example, my title here, it automatically defaults to the fluid grid though. So I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if this is the best way. I don't know. Let's just leave it go. I don't know if this is going to work. I'll have to practice that. I don't know if hit global. Let me see if there's a hit global, hit the plus. Let me see if this just works. We don't need all this. I can use maybe header like this. And then let's change the font. Hold on, I just need to see if this will work. Let's give it a font. Give it a color. And then let me save. And then let me preview. So yeah, it worked. See, the font is the same on all of them. It's the same on all of them. So you can add another one. I just don't know if that. I think that's the best way to try and keep it separate. I don't know, or no, the same for all of them. Let's do another test. Let's do another. Let's go back to the boxes themselves. So I'm going to go back to cell phone. There we go. I'm going to go to the cell phone one. So click twice on the cell phone one. Let's change the color of the boxes. So again, I have main 1, main 2, and main 3, right? So I'm going to click on inside main 1. I'm not going to change any of the options. I'm not going to add a new one. I'm just going to change. So again, I clicked in main 1, or main, just main. And let's change the color of the box. Where's my color? Where's my color? I can't find color. Text color. Where's my box color? Oh, here it is. Background color. There we go. Let's give it a color just so we can see the difference. Maybe let's give it some padding. And we could change the text. Uh-oh, do you notice how the padding extended outside here? So the padding on the edges you might want to not have. So be aware of that. Did you see that? If you have padding go all the way around the edge. then maybe main 2, let's try that. Let's try and change the color of main 2 and adjust that. Oh, I changed margins. Well, that gives you space between them. Do you notice how I changed margin? It gives you space between them. How about main 3? Let's try that. I'm going to click inside main 3. Let's change the color of that one. And then let's save all. And let me preview that one. Won't let me preview. I don't know why. Notice how it changes the color on all of them. This one's because I added a margin to the middle. That's why it's not lined up. This one I had a margin, so be wary of that. Did you notice that? So can I adjust the margin? Well, if we go to this one, I don't want the margin on. Can I change it? Well, I'm going to go to the tablet one, and I'm going to turn off the margin. If I can find it. Oh, doesn't have any margin in it. Let me see why. Did I not add a margin to that? Jeez. I never have enough real estate here. It's not telling me I have any margin. Okay, well. Want it to line up though. Want it to line up. Notice how it put the percentage in here. This is for the column. The column. Or the gutter, I'm sorry, the gutter. I don't know why it's not giving me that. I was hoping that it would. And see, it's not giving me the color. Well, let me adjust that anyways. 0. And then 0. No, it still didn't work. Oh, I'm in margin. 98%? Oh, I'm in the grid container. I'm adjusting the wrong one. It's the desktop? No, there it is. That looks right. Maybe because it's global. I don't know. See if you can figure out how to make that work. I don't know. I'm struggling trying to get my 0 in there. 0 in there. Okay, let me go back to 0. Let me save it all. So that's computer. That's iPad. That's cell phone. This has a margin. This one doesn't. This one doesn't. What I want is for this to be different. On this one. It's purple there. See, purple there. It's green there. Purple there. Purple there. Purple, green. Green, purple, purple. So you can adjust the CSS by, okay, if you look down here, you have minimum screen, maximum screen, this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you can have different CSS for cell phone, tablet, and desktop. It just depends on where you click to make the adjustment. Like in this case, I want to change the purple one here in the desktop to a, what did I do? I did green, purple. Let me a different color. What's a different color? Red. How about that? Okay, so the div 2, the main 2 here, again, is red here. So if I save all and preview, so try and practice that. I got main 2 is red on computer. Purple on the iPad, and green on the cell phone. So see if you can make that. And I think that would be the key to learning or trying to figure out where to click inside of Dreamweaver. Okay, now again, if you look at the code view, I'm sure you could probably figure it out maybe even easier than doing that. If you look at the code view, fluid grid, you remember how we were doing the code, right? Notice the color here for the minimum width of 769. What color do you think this is? What color would that be?
Well, if you did it, it would be sky blue.
No, this would be the red. This one is the red because it's the minimum width. Here's main 2 here, and this is the one that's 481, which is the tablet, right? This would be the purple, and then this one would be the green. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. This one would be the green. Does that make sense? Okay, you just need to, I don't know where to click on how to explain it. You have all these different CSS here. So you can see them right here. Right here. You see them? Right there. Purple, red, purple, and then the CSS, the cell phone one is this one. Red, green. Green, purple, red. So